to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast, episode 786. I am your host, as always, N.A. Erik, not EU Erik, N.A. Erik, and we are talking groups and quarterfinals retrospective with a look ahead to the semis, because we're recording this a couple days before semis are starting. But and Fenrir and Bomo are here to talk with me about it and everything like that. So you'll get to see how we all did in Pick-Ems, or I guess hear about how we all did in our Pick-Ems and what we all thought and what we're thinking for the rest of the matches. So, but before we get into that, guys, how you doing? Bomo, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. My competitive team that I play on just made it past semifinals yesterday, so we're in the finals now. So pretty exciting. The prize pool for first, I think, is $750. So it's pretty cool and interesting. Well, interesting. It is super exciting, and I'm pretty pumped for finals.
Is that $750 per person or split between the team?
$750 for the first place team. So
Okay.
it would be cool if it was per person, but
Yeah.
the entry fee is only like $75 a team, so it's like $15 a person essentially.
Gotcha.
And so if you do win, what is that? Like $150 a person, which isn't too bad from $15 per person entry fee.
No, so that'll pay for like a tenth of what it would cost to get go watch the finals game live, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. All those scalpers. So I guess we'll talk about it later. But yeah, I really hope that China's out. So I know the Bay Area has a bunch of like international students in that area. And so when I went to Santa Clara in the Bay Area, we had a lot of Chinese international students there, and they would always buy out like every single event that had Chinese teams in it. So when I would go for IEM and things like that, if a Chinese team was there, the tickets were insanely expensive because they just have a lot of money in general. And so I knew this one kid who went to my college. He just, when the Worlds was in NA back in 2016, he just fucked off for an entire month and just traveled the entire states to go watch all of the games. It was pretty crazy. And so I'm hoping that some of the prices are because of the international students just not caring about money, just buying tickets. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it's cheaper. But right now the ticket prices are about $600 per person for finals, which is not ideal to purchase right now.
Not ideal to say the least, no. But it should be noted that that has gone down significantly because at one point I think I read that it was the highest price they got was like 1,500 or 2,000 or some crazy garbage.
Yeah, some of the lower bowl seats were like 2,000 something per ticket. Like when after they first were general sale and then they got out to the public, people were reselling them and it was going for like 2,000 a piece, which is insane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I'm not paying those prices, but I'm not going, so no one's asking me to pay those prices. Cool. Yeah, and you said that, speaking of your competitive team, we're going to announce this in the Discord, but your finals are next week sometime, next Wednesday or something. You want to talk about that and plug it real quick?
Yeah, so it's next Wednesday at 4 p.m. PDT or 7 Eastern. On the channel is called Victorious GG, and so they do like leagues of different games like Valorant, League of Legends, and different tiers. So my team is in the VAS tier, which is gold with a single plat exception. So I'm the plat exception for our team. And so yeah, it's pretty much a gold amateur league, which is pretty interesting. I think it's probably the most fun because these are gold players that think they can play every champion, and so you see some crazy picks come out. Like, well, it was pretty crazy, but our top laner in game 2 of our semifinal series played Draven top against GP. And to preface this, he is an 80 carry main, so he's pretty comfortable on Draven. But some spicy picks like that you can see just from our team because we're pretty versatile. We do play a lot of champions, and I think we're pretty good at it. So we played 4 games last time. I guess spoilers if you're into that kind of thing, but we won 3-1, and I think all of us played a unique champion in every game. So we got a lot of champions played in our series. So hopefully that trend continues for next series, but we'll have to see. This team is the projected winners, I think, based on like I don't think they've dropped a single game in playoffs or in groups, and so they've kind of been like undefeated at this point. So we'll see how we do against them. But I think our team is really strong too. So we'll see.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely. I'll announce it, and we'll make sure to plug the link and do some sort of a watch party or something. What's So you're saying there's been some spicy picks. What's the spiciest thing that you've played?
Uh, Honestly, I just play Yone until the enemy team bans it. I'll blind pick Yone every time, but I have been practicing a lot of Azir, so I've been playing a lot of Azir. In terms of spicy picks, I don't really play any spicy picks. It's pretty much all meta champions or champions that I play in my pool. So Swain, Silas, Azir, Yone, Yasuo, Diana, those types of champions. But yeah, our bot lane, our top lanes are the spicy picks. So our bot lane plays Karthus bot a lot.
Ooh.
Our AD carry, he's a Karthus one trick in the bot lane, so he's really good with Karthus. Unfortunately, he's unavailable, so we can't play him. But with the combo, we would pick like Senna Ornn and Senna tank type champion. So a lot of fasting Senna with these high tanky champions who can just roam together. It's pretty crazy. And then our top is kind of a maniac. He'll play whatever. Plays Vayne top, Draven top, whatever he finds favorable into the top lane matchup. We just hope we don't put him on a tank because he probably will run it down if he plays a tank. But at least an AD carry, he's very good at that specific thing. And yeah, it's hard to. I feel like in general it's hard to draft against us because we have so many weird champions that you can try to ban a single person out, but everyone else gets their pocket pick, and you don't think it's a pocket pick at the time, and all of a sudden you just don't know how to play against it. So I think it should be pretty entertaining.
Okay. Cool. Cool. And are you going to? I know you said that you're looking to go to finals. You said are you also going to semifinals happening this weekend, right?
Yep, I'm going to Atlanta this weekend to watch JDD versus T1 and Genji versus DRX. So I'm pretty high for both those games. And then the weekend after, I'm flying to San Francisco to watch the finals of whoever it is. I'm hoping it's a T1 DRX final, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah,
about
I
that.
am traveling to go watch both of these because I missed the last one in 2016 because I didn't have enough money and I was a college student to afford to go watch it. But now that I have a living wage at least then, so I can go watch some of these games.
Now that
I'm
you're
pretty excited for
flush
that.
with cash.
Exactly. Yeah. Engineering lifestyle, right?
Okay, cool. Fenrir, what have you been up to, man?
Just work. Or it's that time of year where leaves are falling on the ground, and rich white people like to have their leaves cleaned off their yard so they can see their nice dead grass. So
Um, so have you? Because I know that you said it's been dry out where you are. Were you getting some like dust storms? Are you far enough west where that was happening, or no?
we don't really get dust storms. We actually got like Monday. Yeah, we got like an inch and a half, 2 inches of rain Monday, Tuesday. So things are not as dusty and gross now.
Gotcha. I was just asking because I think there has been some dust that's floated up from the Great Plains up to Minnesota in general, and then I woke up Monday morning and my car looked like I'd just gone through like some mud flats or something because we got some rain as well, but it pulled all the dust that came up from Iowa and Kansas and stuff all down onto all of our cars. I saw all over Reddit for like the Twin Cities Reddit that everyone was saying like, yeah, I just washed my car the other day and it looks like it looks like I just decided to throw a pile of leaves on my car or try to landscape with my bumper or something. Yeah, because it was everyone's cars were all messy. Luckily, it rained again Monday night, so I got Nature's Car Wash for free. But yeah, gotcha. Okay, league been going good for you?
Sure.
Cool.
I was climbing off. Yeah, Momo knows exactly what I'm talking about. So
We had a
yeah, I've been
couple
playing a
rough
little bit of
flex
sport.
games.
Oh, dude, just Sometimes that meme sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. That's about how it's going.
Okay, gotcha. That's basically my solo queue experience. Although yesterday I played, or not yesterday, Tuesday. No, yesterday actually. I played a couple of solo queue games duoed with our very own Mentally Zill, and I just played Hecarim and he played Zillion, and it was gross. Like we were just running over people. I felt bad, but it was so
I'm
much
not even
fun.
a jungler, and I do the same thing with him.
Yeah, it's too easy. He was like, I was like, okay, which you should play Zillion. And he's like, okay, cool. What do you want to play with it? Well, I could play any of the fast boys. I could play Udyr. I could play Master Yi with it. I could go play Hecarim, and then they banned Udyr. I could play Rammus with it. I was like, okay, just B1 me Hecarim. I don't care. It didn't even matter. It was pretty stupid, but yeah, okay. League's been going decent for me. I feel like I'm in pretty good form. Before this, I played 3 games of support Zoe, and one of the games, or 2 of the games, I absolutely shat on them in laning phase. The third game, I didn't do as well, but still did pretty well. But we ended up losing that game, so I went 2-1 in like 3 normals games there. Yeah, it was. I don't know. People don't respect her distance at all. I mean, it's not played enough to even have stats the last time I checked on u.gg, so people don't play against it, obviously, and people don't play Zoe in general. Like, she hasn't been in the meta for what, like a year or something? So I don't know. I'm always just surprised. I'm like, don't you understand like Zoe's bubble range? And no, people don't. Or the burst once you get Luden's like 100% these people. It was so weird. But yeah, other than that, overall for me, life is fine. I'm still dealing with whatever's going on in my back. I got a test scheduled for Monday morning, so I'll have to get up and get to the doctor's office by 8 a.m. bright and early for that. And yeah, our family dog died this week, so that wasn't great. But yeah, she was 14, so like a 14-year-old golden retriever is. We knew something was gonna happen eventually, but yeah, so that's why I wasn't in community night super long this week, but feeling all right. Took the day off of work yesterday just to chill and process my emotions and stuff. So yeah, but yeah. Anyways, on a sunnier note, let's talk about Worlds groups, gentlemen. So, um, overall impressions. Was it good, bad? What were your impressions? Fenrir, you go first.
I thought it was good, except for the first series. Uh, I did pick Rogue to win, but I
Groups,
was
not
just
quarterfinals. Groups.
oh, my bad, my
Nope,
bad. I
it's all
thought
good. We'll get there. We'll get there.
uh, pretty much the same sentiment. Groups were good, except for C9. Picked them to win their group, and they just kind of bombed out. Um, I've there's like a lot of sentiment right now that like NA is dying and we're just terrible, but I think it really has more to do with the eastern regions are just better.
That's kind of
Like they
been my
practice better.
that's kind of been
Their
my read
players
too.
just yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of been my read as well. It's like they're better, and the players that the young crop of talent that made C9 and other NA orgs be able to compete in prior worlds in 2019 and 18 and 20, even some, is just not fully fleshed. Like those people are now more of the old guard, and they're just not as good. It's not that they're like aging and their hands don't work as well. It's just that they're not as good. They don't maybe spend as much time practicing. They don't have the fire as much, perhaps. I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons why that could be, but I'd say give it another couple of years, and then there'll be some more super teams coming in with, or just like really good young group of prodigies and stuff. And we've seen like there's been individual people that have done well, such as like JoJo, as much as it pains me to say it, but um, that's just kind of been my read as well. Like there's not a lot of ingenuity. The meta changed, and NA teams weren't prepared for it. And when they tried to play it, it didn't work at all. Like, I mean, the perfect example is like you're saying C9. They've tried to play carry top, and Fudge didn't play well on it, and the team didn't play well around it either in any of the games they did that in, and that's why they ended up going 1-5 and finishing at the bottom of their group. Well, part of that, but yeah, why they did so poorly there. And same sort of stuff happened with, I'd say, 100 Thieves. EG, different story, because they actually did decently well with the carry tops, but there were some other issues going on there. I'd say, like, I think it was a pretty good group stage. It was exciting. There was lots of if you're someone that likes to hate on NA, such as myself, it was glorious. I was praying for the 0-18 group stage. That would have been so great, but it didn't happen. Unfortunately, Europe had to throw the last week and give wins over every time. Yeah, but overall, great group stage. It ended up being pretty predictable, I would say. For people that went with the favorites, you were generally right for getting out of groups for Pick-Ems and stuff, other than top esports getting robbed and or imploding on the first week. But yeah, Boma, what were your impressions?
I think I'm sort of in the same boat. It just felt like hand stiff almost between the Eastern and Western teams. Um, NA tried to play the meta, but they just can't keep up with the nuances of piloting a champion compared to the Eastern teams. Um, I think also a lot of the issues stemmed from trying to adjust to whatever their worlds or scrim meta was into the world's group games. So I think in general you should play to your strengths, even if it's not ideal. At least that's what you know and you have success with. And I think that's why Rogue actually got out of groups is they didn't fall for a lot of these weird carry tops, play towards top side. They just did what they were really good at is tank top, facilitator jungler, and like a hyper carry mid laner, and then the bot lane can play whatever type of thing. It's a different story about what actually happened in semifinals with how they looked, but in terms of just getting out of groups, I think that should be as bad as it sounds. NA should be looking to just try to get out of groups to kind of solidify themselves as a region because we've gone out of groups like 3 or 4 times out of the last, I don't know, 10 years or something. It's pretty brutal like how many times we haven't even gotten out of groups and we just kind of falter. I think they just get in their own heads and the I hope next season the LCS changes a little bit where a lot of these veterans who are taking huge paychecks just don't. I hope the salary for a lot of players goes down so it invites new younger players to start coming in. Because I think what happens is you get into this rough cycle of NA talent that just gets swapped between different teams, and there's actually no one there to push them. While if you look at Eastern teams, there are solo queue like gods coming in, trying out for teams, and just wanting to have a spot in a roster, and that lingering like fear of you might be replaced at any second because there's someone who's willing to put in extra effort than you is what allows these Eastern teams to kind of play better and put more practice in. It's disheartening to hear a lot of NA players after spring. So they didn't even make playoffs in spring and they're on vacation. It's like you didn't even make it to playoffs. It's top 8 teams making the playoffs and you can't even find like the inner drive to just practice a little bit more so you're not 9 or 10th, you know? It's like things like that where it's expected at this point for NA to do well. I had some hopium coming into the group stages because I think EG and C9 particularly looked really good, but they just dropped the ball in general. But yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest issue with NA is we pay so much to our players um, for very adequate performances, and I don't know if it's just the lack of player base who can push them, but it just seems like this can't be the best that we have to offer in terms of all of the players that we have on our region almost. So that's kind of where I'm at, I think. But I still will root for NA, but it's just kind of frustrating seeing all this happen every year. But every year I have hopium, and every year I'm crushed by it.
It feels like I totally agree with everything that you're saying. Rooting for NA is like rooting for it's like rooting for the U.S. in the World Cup, right? If they may make it, they may not, and if they do, you know they're not going to win it. It's a miracle if they get out of groups a lot of times, and sometimes they do, but you know they're not going to go that far. So it's just like a how long can they go until they lose, and that's just the
Yeah.
reality of NALCS right now, which really sucks for those people that like
Yeah.
them as a fan base.
And so at least I have some hope because EG, even without their starting 80 carry, came in and actually put on, I think, the best performance for an NA team. They came in play-ins, showed that they won't back down, actually put up a fight and weren't too scared to take risks. I think that's kind of the biggest thing too with NA is it seems like they're so scared of making a mistake, but what ends up happening is they just lose the game inevitably because they're so scared to take action of doing things. It's kind of that mentality I think a lot of people just have is like there's no reason for change if I'm comfortable type of thing. And so I think I really like what EG has been doing with growing NA talent, bringing these young kids in and just trying to win the game. Like I don't care if you can go 0-50 in a game, just have 0 kills, but if you're trying stuff and actually showing that you're trying to win, I'd take that over like a 10 to 12 game where you just rolled over and died type of situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it like what you're saying is it makes me think a lot of Damon's top laner Nuguri gave an interview after groups to Inven Global. It's like a Korean website that they cover league and esports and stuff like that. But I've read some of the translation of it, and he was talking about how he's not surprised at all that the West did terribly compared to the Eastern teams in groups this year because they don't he said that they're fine at team fights and macro and stuff, but the laning phase they're just losing because they don't understand. He's like speaking holistically for top laners. He can't speak for mid or bot and support and stuff, but top laners like they just don't understand the nuances, like so many important nuances to the laning phase, and for that reason it's not even valuable to scrim against them. So he said like Damwon didn't scrim against any Western teams at all once they reached when they came over to NA. And he doesn't think that any of the other, not many of the other Eastern teams even scrimmed with Western teams at all, like especially the Korean ones. So if you're gonna even try to adapt to these, like the world's meta and try to go aggressive, if there's a total different bubble that the Eastern teams are playing that you're not even hearing about because I think people don't talk about what's going on in scrims and you're just not even hearing about anything that's happening, then how can you even adapt to it and play? Like it's not surprising at all that they don't do well because they don't get to face these Eastern teams and they're too far away geographically to scrim during the season, whereas LPL and the teams from Taiwan and the Vietnamese teams and the LCK teams and LJL, they can all scrim each other because they're decently close. But you can't do that in NA because we're so geographically isolated compared to other servers. I mean, you could scrim some of the Latin American teams, but that wouldn't help them. It would help some of the Latin American teams. It wouldn't help the LCS teams very much, though.
I guess I'm also confused too because don't teams like go to Korea for boot camping? So like, what is the point of boot camping?
The solo queue environment, I think, and then they play against academy teams. I don't think they even get a lot of games against the official rosters.
I feel like you can still learn a lot. So I guess maybe it's like an ego. From my standpoint, it seems like an ego thing where professional players aren't playing challengers queue whenever it's up. Like you hear about, I don't know, players who don't even play challengers queue. I feel like it's an environment set up with low ping latency, which was the biggest issue with NA. It's like, oh, our ping is too high, that's why we're not competitive. But you have a lower latency environment, and you're picking the cream of the crop players from your server to play on a team. And so I don't understand why you wouldn't be spamming that whenever it's available to just try to get better. Like people say it's a waste of time. Like I don't understand how practicing this certain thing is a waste of time. You're not just playing it for challengers queue, you're playing it to learn the intricacies of a champion. Like it shouldn't be used only for like, oh, look at me, I climbed the challenger queue ladder. It's all right, Aatrox, pretty busted champion right now. What can I play into Aatrox that seems good? You try it out. And it's like, okay, I think X pick might be pretty decent. Let's keep trying it out into Aatrox, and like we'll get a bigger sample size and see how he feels. Sure, the person piling the Aatrox might not be good, but at least you'll have an understanding of how that champion plays against you and how you play against it. And so even though you're not getting the best the best of the best practice against your opponent, you're still understanding the fundamentals of what makes that champion strong in a specific situation. Because it's still hard to get challenger regardless of what region you're playing. And so you still have to have a certain amount of skills just to get challenger. So even though a challenger in Korea might be a lot better than a challenger in NA, you're still getting the challenger in NA essentially. And then that's when you take your boot camp to Korea and it's like, okay, I take what I learned in the off season. We lost. Let's go to Korea boot camp and let's try out how this works in their specific environment. And then the way that the team meshes is probably a different story, and getting scrims is a different story. But at least you have the matchup fundamentals. What Nuguri was kind of
Yeah.
implying, because a lot of at the end of the day, the competitive aspect will come to the game, but the laning fundamentals are kind of the most important part of League in itself, and you can get that from solo queue.
Yeah, you can get a lot of that from solo queue for sure.
Mhm.
Then there is more randomness that happens in solo queue, but if you're playing enough games, especially as like a laner, you get that laning experience. Especially as a top laner, like how he's speaking, you get to be on an island and face them and try different builds and try these matchups and shit. And so if someone, like Aatrox is so popular right now, like he's super popular, so you're gonna get the chances to face him and learn how to do against that. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. So yeah, NA collapse at Worlds was one of the main storylines. EU falling, like doing better day one, and then or on their first round robin, and the second round robin doing much more poorly was another main storyline as well. I don't know, like it was. I don't know. I'm not really sure what to think about it. I don't. I think that the EU collectively just played a lot worse. Like I don't think NA played that much better to get a win over, like if we're talking about Evil Geniuses beat G2 and C9 beat Fnatic. 100 Thieves beat the Flying Oysters. They didn't have an EU team in their group, but and Rogue also lost to they lost to Top, whereas they beat them the previous round robin. So like that's kind of what I saw with EU. It's not that they like everyone else played better. They just played worse collectively than they did in their first round robin. Fenrir, what do you think about that? Am I totally off base?
Uh, it's hard to like I think you're right as like what we can see,
Yeah.
but it is like it's so hard to know, right? Because we have absolutely no idea what's going on, and we're never gonna know. So I mean, all we can do is speculate. But I completely agree with you. It didn't feel like that the NA teams got better. It just felt like LEC got worse as the tournament went on.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Um, what do we think about the whole Top Esports fiasco? So, for those people who are unaware, Top did not get out of their group, though potentially they should have. They went 1-2 in the first round robin. They beat GAM but lost to Rogue and DRX, and then the second round robin they beat Rogue and DRX and lost to GAM in a very crazy game. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's a banger of a game, I will say. But there was a bug that happened. So Top were they beat GAM at an Elder flip fight, and Top got the Elder Dragon. They were running down and they were hitting the Nexus. Karthus respawns, Levi respawns. He presses R and almost kills the entire team when they were like three-quarters health. He almost kills all of them. The team spawns manages to defend, and and then GAM run it back like after they kill everyone at the base. They manage to run to the other side of the map and end before Top can spawn and stop them. So it's wild, but and it was a back and forth game overall. Like it was just a great game of League to watch. Uh, when Karthus ulted, Lucian Gala should have had a Maw go off, and it bugged and did not go off. He got the he got the passive of the extra Omnivamp from it and AD and AP or whatever it gives you afterwards, but he didn't get the actual shield, so he was left with like 50 health as opposed to like 650 health. And had he actually gotten the shield, probably they would have been able to end, and they would have gone 4-2, and then you would have had a three-way tie for first at 4-2, 4-2, 4-2, and then GAM would have been 0-6, rather than just a two-way tie of DRX and Rogue, and then they did a tiebreaker, and Top would have been a part of that, and that would have been crazy to watch. But that's kind of what happened. So probably the best game so far, the craziest game that happened. So okay, before quarterfinals, the best group game and play-ins game included is now kind of sullied because of that bug, and we know what happened and the whole storyline and everything. But I don't know. I don't feel great about it. Like it's a tainted game now. That was one of the best games I've seen on the pro stage, but now I can't. It just feels bad to watch it, in my opinion, after seeing it the first time and watching it back. What do you guys think about that? Does it make sense? Yeah. Boma, what do you think
Yeah, I
when you were?
mean,
Or sorry, Fenrir, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. So I was just gonna say Top would have definitely got out of the group because on the second day of their group, or the second round of games of their group, they didn't just beat Rogue and DRX, they like stomped Rogue and DRX. Like the games were not even close. And I mean, yeah, you can argue like they should have never been in the position to have that against GAM. Like they should have either done better in that week one, or even the game against GAM. Like they shouldn't have ever been pushed by GAM that much. But at the same time, like Rogue should never have gotten out of that group the way they played the second week. And I think the bracket would look a little different if Top had made it to BO5 because they never have been a good BO1 team. So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated about it. The thing is, though, like even if Jackie Love had noticed that he didn't get the shield, he couldn't have paused the game about it because like the way the rules work is you can only do a pause for a bug that changed the outcome of something you thought was going to happen. And there's no way that he could have calculated like, oh, my Maw shield should have blocked this much damage.
Gotcha. Okay, so it doesn't, or it's like some unintended game mechanic entirely, or something. Then
So no, the only way you can pause, and it's who's the LCK caster? The
Atlas.
Yes, Atlas was talking about it. So he said that the only way that you can pause a game is if a bug occurred that changed the outcome of a play that you were trying to make, like a predetermined outcome.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, because like the ones I think, like the major ones that I can think of are, I remember one time in LCK, like Showmaker dropped Rift Herald, and for some reason it didn't charge, and the turret killed it, and it didn't get any plates or anything because there were like 5 seconds left. It should have done that, and they backed it up, and they chrono broke it, and then redid that. Or when there was the bug where Samira could use her R even while like GA was going off when she was first released. I remember seeing that happening, and they always had to be like, okay, like we can't stop this in the middle of this game, but we'll go further back, and then the teams wouldn't have that fight. Or I think Samira had to sell GA or something. I don't quite remember what happened, but those are the ones I can think of. So that makes sense the way that you're talking about it. Because yeah, there's no way Jakulev could have been like calculating everything in his head. I mean, potentially, I don't know. He's a monster, but maybe. I don't think so.
Well, and even like you mentioned it, he got the lifeline passive. So to him in the moment, right, he is just full of energy. Like, oh, we're gonna lose this game now. Like now that I died, right? The last thing he's thinking about is, man, that 600 damage should have blocked, or that 600 damage shield should have blocked more. Because he thought that it went off. He's probably just in his mind, oh man, Karthus just OP.
Yeah, and I think everyone thought that Karthus ult just blew through the whole shield and
Yeah.
everything. Didn't even think about Ma, because, yeah, and the adrenaline and everyone was so high because Jakulev actually stole the Elder from a miss smite on Levi, and it was just wild. Yeah. But I agree. Like Top absolutely slammed their other games. They would have gotten out. And then they would have been probably the 1 seed, honestly, and DRX 2 seed. Rogue wouldn't have gotten out, so no Western teams would have gotten out. I mean, who knows what would have happened? DRX probably would have faced JDG then, and that is much better. That was a much better contest than JDG Rogue was, and I think, and then what Top would have played against? Would have played against who did they play?
EDG.
Right, EDG, and that probably would have been that almost definitely would have been Top going through as well.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that we want to say? Any other major storylines that we want to talk about, or any specific games stand out to you, or crazy metas or picks, or anything else we want to mention about groups?
The one thing I wanted to mention game wise was if you guys didn't pay attention to T1's games completely, go to, is it the tiebreaker game against EDG? Yes.
They didn't
The
have
tiebreaker game against,
they didn't have a
they
tiebreaker.
didn't?
No.
Or was it the final game to determine the group who got first?
Yeah, that would have been it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought they played it. And so the final game that T1 EDG played, where Zeus plays Gangplank
Oh yeah.
against Flandre's. Does he play against Malachi? I think.
I'm looking. I don't. He played Gangplank against C9, I think, right? Hold on, how do I find this?
It was
Let me-
Gangplank against Maokai, yeah.
Yeah. So go watch that game. And
Oh yeah.
he is literally 2 items at 15 minutes. He has Triforce and LDR, or Collector maybe, at 15 minutes. And at 20 minutes, he is 10k up on Flandre.
He is literally 10,000 gold above his opponent. Yes. It is absurd. And granted, Flandre was given a very bad matchup, but still, like the whole team had to collectively fuck up hard enough to put GP that far ahead. Yeah. Yeah. He's looked like the best top laner to me this tournament so far, or especially in groups. Because 369 looked really good in quarterfinals, but yeah. Overall, then, how'd your guys' Pick-Ems do? Did you how many points collectively did you get from group stage?
I got 8 out of 16.
You got 8 points for the whole of group stage?
No, sorry, I'm trolling.
I was gonna
That's
say,
just
like,
one group.
that's
That's just
bad.
one group. That's just one group.
I got
What does it tell you?
34.
Okay.
You just have to add them up.
Yeah, there's no number specifically. I just do the math.
Oh, well, that's lame.
I just had too much hopium in NA, especially EG and C9, which kind of fucked up my entire group predictions. But group D was pretty standard, I feel like, for me. But yeah, group B was just Damwon and EG switched, and C9, Fnatic and EG switched. Well, if I'm putting NA first in group A, then I put Europe last, which wasn't the case. NA was actually last, so kind of messed up my entire pick'ems for that group. And then group C, I got half right. Rogue and Top Esports were just swapped pretty much.
Gotcha. I got 39 for that for group stage. I got a perfect group A and group D, and I got 7 points from group B. I got JDG first and EG last, but I had G2 getting out and Damwon not getting out. And then my group C was like, I didn't think that this was actually gonna. Okay, I had Top winning the group, which they absolutely should have won the group, since we just talked about that. But other than that, I had Rogue in fourth because I didn't believe, and I wasn't super sure about. I thought DRX were going to get out. I thought they were going to be number 2, but I put them at number 3 just because I put Gam in second. Because there was one of the crystal balls. It's like, which team do you think from a region with 2 or less teams will get the furthest? And most people put Gam, I think. So I was like, if I'm gonna put that, then I have to actually put them to go through into groups. Otherwise, the crystal ball pick 'em doesn't even matter because no team's gonna get out then, obviously. So I put them in there. So I got nothing from Group C because everything was wrong for me. But I still managed to get 39 points because I got 2 perfect groups. So Sweet. Cool. And then also, I mean, we'll talk about the rest of it, but people can go when you're on your pick'ems, you can click on the leaders tab and you can see where you are relative to the rest of everyone that's done it. You get to see like roughly what percentile you're at and what your rewards are currently. And every time a new match happens, you get to see what your points are, where you get redistributed relative to everyone. And we still have, there are 8 people that have everything right so far and 5 people with everything wrong, which is impressive. You have to actually try to get everything wrong, and even then you'd get some stuff absolutely right, even if you're like, who would have that group C outcome of, I mean, who would have put it exactly like me? Very few people would have done that. Even if they were trying, they would have been like, "Oh, top is gonna, top is not gonna make it." Then they'd get some points there, but like Christ. So, go check those out. Whoever, if anyone has any perfect picks at the very end, they get all the ultimate skins for free, which is so cool. Yeah.
And we may see all these perfect picks go to waste this next week. So all of them predict T1 Gen G finals. So that is also another spicy thing that might happen if one of those semifinal games just doesn't pan out. Then there's no perfect pick'ems left.
Ooh, all of them did that? I didn't realize that. Yeah, because you
Yep, all
can.
of them have T1 versus Gen G.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that is. I'm scrolling through them right now. Yeah. Wow, they all do. That's interesting. I don't have that, but let's talk about quarters, and then we can talk about what we have moving forward. Then, so Fenrir, since you were so quick to want to talk about quarters, what'd you think of quarters, man?
So back to what we were talking about 40 minutes ago. I thought it was all good. Like I said, I was a little sad that Rogue did what they did. I picked them to win, but that was more just like everybody was just kind of shitting on Rogue, so I was just like rallying the troops. I was with Cadril trying to give them my spirit bomb, but yeah, they suck. So
Yeah,
no, it was a lot of fun.
yeah, it was a great court. These were probably the best quarters that I've seen at all. I think that's kind of the general consensus. This is one of, if not the best quarterfinals of groups ever. The only one that I could think of that would maybe compete was 2018 with the IGKT series, which was crazy, and that was also, I believe, that was C9 RNG, where they got through into semis, was also that year. Or maybe that was 2019 that C9 got through to semis. I'm not sure, but there was some crazy quarters that happened around there. 2020 was also quite good with Fnatic top, and several others as well. Yeah, but there was just, I mean, we'll talk about more of them, but yeah, there were 2 3-0s and then 2 3-2s, and those 3-2s were wild. But yeah, JDG beat Rogue 3-0. That was pretty expected. 81% of people in Pick'ems had that to happen, so that's what happened there. T1 beat RNG 3-0. In a, I would say, a more convincing 3-0 than JDG's 3-0 personally. But it's also worth noting that
What'd you say?
I thought that T1's 3-0 was more convincing than JDG's 3-0. That's my take there. But it's also worth noting that RNG, almost all of them had COVID, and they actually were sick too. Like, they had symptoms and they were sick, and you can see it on the player cams in Game 3. Like, they just felt bad being there. And then Genji beat Damwon 3-2, and also some of Damwon's players were sick with COVID. Some of their coaches were more, but a couple of players actually had it as well. And then DRX beat EDG 3-2 as well. But yeah, so I agree with you though. Like, Rogue did not do that well against JDG, and that was that. Bomo, what'd you think of that series?
I I talked about this kind of before we started saying, but I think the weekend of quarterfinals got progressively better as the days went on. So the first day wasn't too hype. It was kind of a disappointment. And maybe second day was a little bit more hyper. I think the games were slightly closer. I think game 2 of T1 versus EDG, I thought it was gonna go. I thought
You
EDG
mean
was gonna not EDG, RNG. I thought RNG was going to win game 2 because they had such a massive lead. But all of a sudden, the 0-6 Jace, he's not doing anything, but Gumayushi is actually coming back into form. So I'm actually pretty hyped for this T1 roster. I'm a T1 fan, if you can't tell, but I think Gumayushi is like actually becoming a really good player again. He was slumping in the summer finals and MSI. I think he had a pretty poor MSI, but it seems like he's like almost leveled up essentially where he's starting to play a lot better. And I think what was it? He went deathless, I think, this series. Gumayushi did.
I think so.
Against
Yeah,
RNG,
he
yeah.
didn't die as Zaya
He died
in
twice.
game 2.
Yeah, he died. He died twice.
Okay.
He died twice. Okay. And so before that, he was deathless on the group stage, the second day.
Yep.
So I think the only times he died was the Fnatic game, which I think owner just completely inted for T1 with that Krugs invade, whatever he was trying to do. And then from there he went deathless until game 3 against RNG. So I think Guma Yushi's doing really well. Kyria is playing out of his mind too. I think they're both kind of in form. Faker's a little disappointing in terms of how he's been playing, but he's able to absorb a lot of pressure. And even though he's dying and making these weird mistakes, I feel like he's still able to kind of manage and hold the team together. And Zeus, even when he's 0-6, he's still doing a lot of damage. I don't know if you saw that damage chart after the fight over, was it Elder?
Fucking
Or was
6K
it Soul?
damage in the Dragon
Yeah.
Pit.
Yeah, he did so much damage for just being down so much, which just shows like how good he is in terms of you can camp him all you want, but he's still gonna be able to maximize his champion. And so I think just seeing them come back from that game 2 was pretty exciting for me. And just I made a vow to myself that I'm never giving up another solo queue again if T1 doesn't give up that game. And so I'm all for it. And then the Genji Dom one I thought was a really banger of a series. I had projected Dom one winning, which they were really close to doing. I thought it was over when Genji was like in that corner on top side, but Ruler just pulled something out of nowhere and just turned the fight, which is insane. But yeah, and DRX versus EDG went the full 5 games. I still believe to this day it would have been a 3-1 DRX if the inhib didn't respond, but I just think DRX just played so much better than EDG, and the series score doesn't reflect how almost one-sided it was in terms of how they played. And I thought all the games they played, DRX was just better, but they just kind of threw some things here and there towards EDG, which allowed them to make the game seem close. But yeah, I am very hyped for DRX, and I hope they make it through to the finals. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it was a slow crescendo up, and yeah, like in T1 RNG, T1 draft gap them in and probably all 3 games realistically, and then in Genji Damwon we saw Kane come out twice, and it was Rost both times. There was like, what else was there? There's been a bunch of Ash Heimerdinger coming out. We got to see Zaya picked in the T1 series. There's been some really weird, or not really weird, but like really cool different adaptations that came out. We saw Ezreal have high prio in the DRX series, and same with Heimer was actually banned after game 2. The rest of the series they banned it out. We saw Karma get a game or 2 there. We still seeing Caitlyn being permabanned. Yeah, it's we saw Sivir played without Yumi as well once, I believe. I think JDG played that maybe, or maybe Genji did. I don't quite remember, but yeah, it was wild, and the majority of people were right, except from the DRX series, where only 26% of people picked them. But I picked them there, so I had perfect groups and perfect quarterfinals. Whoop whoop. Yeah, like the DRX series, when Bomo's saying that it would have been 3-1, like I totally agree. DRX were ahead every game early in gold and experience, and they had better drafts basically every game too. Uh, but yeah, they were ahead early every time, and then games 1 and 2. Well, game 2, Beryl wasn't playing great. He had like 6 deaths in the first 20 minutes or so. He was just kind of running it down some. Def didn't play great in game 1 either. He got caught a bunch as Ash, and EDG just managed to out team fight them. Game 2, I mean, just watch the replay, guys. Go look up the just look up game 2 uh, backdoor or something. Should we even go into what it is, or should we just let the audience discover it?
Just let them see it for themselves.
Okay. So yeah,
I agree.
Yep. Yep. So that was that. Game 3, 4, and 5 though DRX took, and yeah, Zeka's kind of carried them, and Pioshik just existed. I still don't think Pioshik's very good, but yeah, Zeka put on a clinic, especially in game 5. He absolutely murdered Scout so many times. There's like a 1v1 montage that I think the official LoL Esports channel or League of Legends YouTube put out, that it was just like him like 5 times in a row, or 4 times, just every time winning a 1v1. And he did die to Scout once, but it was a 1v2. Yeah, it was nuts. Zeka needs to be. I honestly think he's gonna be outperforming Chovy in the next series. I honestly believe that. He's in form right now. This is the best he's ever played, that he's ever seen, because he was an average mid laner in LCK. He was pretty unremarkable, honestly. That was my impression of watching all those games. But now he's leveled up.
I'm here for it. I think so. Genji has really good players, but Chovy is very. I don't know how to say it. It's like very selfish.
He's a fucking
Player?
solo queue player. Pardon my language.
Yeah, he
I hate
just
Chovy.
he's like a he's like a PvE mid laner, which is like I don't understand. Like he'll like watch his team die and he's still farming the side lane type of thing. It's like you're not even attempting to help your team. You're just like, oh, my team is like it's a lost situation. Maybe he's like so big brain that I just don't understand it. But I think Zeka's gonna style on Chovy because Chovy wants to play like this perfect game. I think Genji is built around playing like this perfect game of League of Legends. We play methodically, but I think Zeka and even to a certain extent Pioshik will like throw some wrenches in like their certain game plan, which is why I really wanted Damwon to win because I think Damwon is the more fun team to watch. The Kane performance was like out of this world. Like he didn't win the game, but I would consider that a 1v9 performance, just how he played the Kane.
Do you mean game 1 Kane or game 5 Kane? Okay, yeah.
Game 1 Kane. And also, to an extent, game 5 Kane, the way a lot of things were set up, I think he did really well with playing his champion. It's just Ruler is just a better carry at the end of the day because of all the resources I think he got. I think Damwon's bot lane is a little weak, and if they had a slightly stronger bot lane, I think they would have won the series. But because Ruler was just so much better than Damwon's bot lane, I think that's why they ended up winning. But I just don't like the way Genji play. It's just not. It's just not fun to watch. Really, it's like the old, really, really old school League of Legends, and it's just not entertaining. It's very slow paced and methodical, and to a certain extent, I understand that you want to play perfectly and you know that you're better than them, but I'd rather see it in like straight up mechanical fights and whatnot to prove that you're better instead of this slow choke out. And I think teams kind of inevitably fall for it and don't do anything trying to break out of it. They kind of play into their hand, which I think Damwon was really good at, like breaking away from. It's like, all right, we're gonna try to fight you every step of the way. So I hope DRX does something similar.
I'm sure they will. Like, I think Genji plays that way because of, like you're saying, like Chovy's PvE, he's not wanting to fight, so then they can't really do early game comps. That wouldn't make sense. And then Doran up top is one of the weakest mid laners in LCK, and so he's just weak side, or if they put him on a carry, he doesn't do all that well. Like, it's kind of funny whenever he gets like a kill, if he gets a solo queue or whatever in LCK, the casters go nuts because they're like, holy shit, Doran did something on his own without being gifted something from Peanut or something. And Peanut is like a much better version of Malrang, where he's sinning and stuff, and he gets but he's still able to be more relevant. But he's just not carrying, or they're not giving him picks to carry. And like you said, like Ruler's fantastic, but their team was really good in spring because they were the best team, I think, in the world at the Zeri, Sivir, Lulu, Yumi meta. I think they were the best that I'd ever seen. And so or that I saw, and they were absolutely demolishing teams with it. You couldn't beat them with it. It was so hard. They had the best game score in the LCK ever. They had like a plus 40 game score over the season, which is just absolutely nuts. They lost like 3 games or something through that whole time. But now Zeri is not in the pro meta at all. Sivir is if Yumi's up, but if you just B1 Yumi away from them or ban it, then Sivir's much worse. And Genji doesn't really know how to respond with it. They try to play Lucian Nami in the same way, but it's just not anywhere near as effective for what they're doing. They're like you're saying, their lanes exist kind of on their own, and Peanut tries to pull it together, but without a Zeri pop-off moment or Sivir Yumi, it doesn't really, or Misfortune Yumi like they did as well, it doesn't really coalesce together. And even Misfortune Yumi they didn't do that great on it. It's just Yumi's ability to push them through it really got them through those first 2 games.
Mhm. And Dom 1-2, I think they threw was a game 1. They gave Chovy that triple kill, which just accelerated his farming.
Yeah.
And he was able to take over the game from that point because he didn't have to farm as much. And so I think it could have been winnable for Dom 1. But yeah, I just don't like the way Genji really plays League of Legends. I think it's not enjoyable for me to watch. So I really hope they get knocked out before finals. Even if they get to finals, I think T1's gonna win, but T1's gonna have to go through JDG first.
Yeah, Genji plays like a really good NA team got sent to Worlds. They play very slow. They play like this is how we're supposed to play because this is how we're supposed to play. It's smart. It's calm. It's let's just farm and go to late game and team fight because they're good at it. But yeah, uh, yeah, I definitely think that whoever wins between JDG and T1 will beat the other side of the bracket, like you're saying. If it's Gen G or DRX, like cool. I think that whoever makes it, great, congrats to them, but they're not gonna win. I'd be floored if they actually won the finals. It's gonna be T1 or JDG. They just look better. Their top laners are much better. They're much better as a unit. It just seems like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think the top side of the bracket is a lot stronger in general. Well, not Rogue.
Not
Just the
Rogue,
way
but the
that
other ones,
they
yeah.
play around the current meta, yeah. I think top lane is super important. If they put Doran on a safe tank again, Zeus just comes out with GP again and just spanks him and just gets this entire gold lead. So I think you have to not just rely on scaling picks. And I kind of like that Faker is forcing the Akali Silas matchup every game because I don't think Chovy's played Silas or Akali, right?
Chovy's a very good Silas. I can't recall him playing Akali,
Does
but
he
he's a
blind
very
it though?
I don't know, but he's like demolishes solo queue with it. So he at least
Okay.
knows what he's doing very well on it. He's a very good Silas. I don't know about Akali though. I'm sure he can play Akali well. He's
Mhm.
Chovy, but he's not going to play Akali like one probably should right now in this meta and roaming and getting kills and
Yeah.
skirmishes and stuff. He's going to go full farm Akali.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's much anywhere that like what was I gonna say? It doesn't seem like whoever faces if Gen G do get through to the finals, if they put Doran on a tank or something like that, or even against like Kingen, there's nowhere that they can turn to him because like you're saying they can just use a GP, they can use a Fiora and demolish the tank. I honestly think that Doran should just play Shen because you can play a tank, you can absorb, and then you can press R and help Ruler or Chovy or Peanut do something on the other side of the map. I think Shen, Mordekaiser, play the impact pool. That would be what I would recommend. Or go play Lulu top and be useful in team fights. That's what I'm thinking there. But yeah, I'd also like it known that I predicted a DRX reverse sweep, which happened. I said it on the day before that they're going to reverse sweep, and I have a screenshot of it. And you guys know, but I wanted the rest of the world who's listening to this podcast to know, and I perfectly predicted the sweep. So I know, big brain, exactly, big
Now
brain.
your head is fucking about to explode. It's inflating so much.
Well, I get to brag a little bit with that. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You called it, so I'll give it to you.
yeah.
Even though you had no reasoning whatsoever, you just throwing shit out into the ether and hoping it sticks.
I thought they would beat EDG, and I was thinking that they would throw a couple of games. I didn't necessarily think it was good. I thought when I said reverse sweep, I was like, sure, they'll reverse sweep. But I definitely thought it was going to go 3-2. I think most people thought it was going to go 3-2, though. Yeah. So, okay. So, anything else we want to talk about from quarters, or should we do semifinals, prospective, and then finish up? Cool. Okay. So semis. I have. What did I predict? Right now, I have T1 over JDG and DRX over Genji. Boma, I think you had the same. Fenrir, which what'd you pick?
I got T1 over JDG, and I got Genji for DRX.
Okay. So why do you think Genji over DRX?
So I actually today went back and watched a lot of the game Genji versus Damwon. And first off, the main thing I took from it was Canyon is the best jungler at this tournament. And I think Peanut actually, because at first I thought that Canyon just kind of gapped Peanut. But then I kind of really looked at it, and Peanut did everything he did, or everything he needed to do to win those games. He conceded everything properly to where Canyon never got a like crazy lead on him. In the Kane games, he like purposefully just avoided Kane so that Kane could never get form. Like in game 5, Canyon didn't get form until like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Game 1 he got it at 10 minutes, but
Yeah, he got it super fast. And
yeah.
so Peanut learned very quickly what to do against the Kane. I mean, even just after one game. And I think that is just insane, first off. I don't think Pioshik is anywhere near the jungler that Canyon is, obviously. And I really think that Peanut might just turn around and show, like, hey, I'm the better jungler. Like, we're winning this series.
I get what you're saying, and I definitely also agree that Canyon is the best jungler at this tournament, with the caveat that Kanavi can match him depending on picks. It's also, if you look back at the drafts, Canyon had favorable matchups all 5 games into Peanut, so that was draft gap in that specific matchup as well, which it's important to know. Like, he's going to get leads because of the matchup, but I think they're going to continue to put Peanut on these submissive tank, team-oriented junglers, and Pioshik some might be put on, but also he was a Kindred one trick. That's how he first climbed up the ladder. So his Kindred looked decent, still not great, but he was also the guy
Next
that.
Mark, that's what his name means.
Oh, didn't know that. Yeah, he also was the guy who started the Udyr jungle and Mundo jungle things when those happened, last season or so, or 2 seasons ago. So, like, he's prepared to pull out these off meta picks. I don't know if he's going to be prepared to pull them out in a world semifinals, but if anyone were to throw a wrench in the jungle pool, it would be him, of the 4 junglers left in the tournament for sure. So maybe he'll pull something out. Not super sure, but I mean, they could end up. I could see a world where Genji picks Maokai jungle or Poppy, and DRX slams Mordekaiser jungle. I could totally see that happening, just to absolutely fuck over Maokai or Poppy or something like that. But yeah, I think it's kind of a toss up, honestly, between the two of them. But
What's your game score? DRX versus Genji.
I'm gonna say 3-1, just because I think it's it's 50-50, but if DRX are gonna win, it's gonna be a 3-1 personally, because top lane Kingan's better than Dorn, but not that much better that it's going to be it's crazy. He's not Zeus level. And we just talked about the jungle. I think Chovy will do well in lane, but Zeka will have map impact. Um, they'll probably just give Azir to Chovy and then let Zeka play Silas or Talia or something like that. I could see him playing Vex just to get around the map and get kills and get other people ahead. And then bot lane, Deft and Beryl have been prepared to play weird stuff this tournament, not only just the Ashe Heimerdinger, but if Heimerdinger's up, I don't think Gen G are going to be able to play against it very well, or it's going to very much disrupt what they're trying to do. Because Beryl is a very good Heimerdinger. Like, we can tell he's put in a lot of time on this pick. So that's why I think
You
it's
don't
a
think
3-1.
Lehens is ready?
To counter Yuumi, yes, against Heimerdinger,
He's
what
ready to counter anything. Like I really think Lehens has something that he has prepared. They're gonna let Heimer through game one, I guarantee it. And Lehens has something.
I
They're
don't know.
gonna
I think
they're
he'll
gonna
have something.
dare
I
they're
don't
gonna
think it's
dare
gonna
Beryl to play
work.
it.
I don't think it's gonna like. He'll have something prepared. If I had to guess, it's gonna be like a Ziggs or a Syndra. That's
But
what would
it's
happen.
Zyra.
Zyra, okay. Yeah, I guess the plants and the turrets can battle it out.
Zyra support will be played in either this series or the T1 series.
Whoa, okay. Why are you so
I
confident
also
about that?
so for one, I've been seeing people play it, and two, it's like really good in the matchup. It does what Heimer wants to do, but better.
Okay. So then, if they're playing Ashheimer, what would the ADC pairing likely be alongside? Alongside her, would it just be like Misfortune Zyra?
The question is who gets Ashe first,
Mm,
and then you can go from there. Because I think Ashe is actually the key to that lane, not the Zyra or the Heimerdinger. So I'm kind of predicting, especially in the Gen G DRX series, that Ashe is going to be a lot more higher prio than we seen in the prior series. Because I think the most interesting thing about this world is every single series, every single groups had their own little mini metas,
yeah.
and now we're seeing them all clash together. And first off, that's just awesome. It's crazy seeing 4 different metas just clash into each other at once.
Yeah, it is really cool to see all these different metas colliding. And yeah, and all 4 of these teams are from different groups that are left as well. That's actually, I didn't think
Mhm.
about that until right now. Yeah. Okay. So why do we think T1 over JDG? So Fenrir, you're the one here who's not a T1 fan. So I'll kick it to you first for some objective analysis here. Why do you think T1 over JDG?
So before I go with the pick, I want to say something real quick. I went back and listened to our podcast that we recorded with you, me, John, and Momo before World started, predicting groups and stuff. And uh, I first off want to apologize to Carria for calling him a trash support. He really threw that one in my face. But second off, I am kind of a T1 hater, but not necessarily. I'm just it's kind of like the Tom Brady treatment. I'm tired of seeing them all the time. But we did all have the sentiment, even though I picked RNG to win Worlds, that it just felt different for T1. Like we all knew that they didn't quite live up to expectation in summer, and whether it was just kind of hope or not, we all felt like that this was their season for some reason.
It was the meta. They did really poorly.
Yeah.
Guma Carrier could not play the meta, the Zeri, Sivir, Yumi, Lulu. That's what a big thing. They struggled with that a lot.
But so one, I really actually think that T1's first off winning Worlds no matter what. I don't think it matters who they play on the other side, like you guys were saying. And second, I think Zeus is better than 369. I think he has a wider champion pool. I think he can play the more. I think he can play both sides of the carry matchups better than 369 can. Uh, I think Kanavi is a little bit better of a jungler than Owner, but I think Bengi is going to get him in shape right before. Uh, and then another kind of spicy pick that I think is going to happen is Faker. So he plays the Silas Akali matchup. He can play both sides, but Yagao cannot play Akali. So I think Team One's going to high prioritize Silas, and push Yagao onto something that he's not comfortable with, or they're going to let Yagao get Silas, and Faker's going to play like Karma Lulu mid.
Ooh, I love that. That sounds
I'm
awesome.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
And so my second prediction is before the end of the tournament, Faker will have at least one game on Karma or Lulu.
Spicy.
And I think it'll be in this series.
Okay. I get that. So yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. I would say I don't know if Bengi's gonna get owner in shape, but I also just don't think like Kanavi's a better jungler, or better in form at least right now. But it's not big enough like the Canyon Peanut gap that it's gonna be a huge deal. Like owner he can handle Kanavi. If he goes Graves Ignite, like owner has some picks to be able to deal with that, or can just play around it and stuff. He doesn't sin as hard as Peanut does or other junglers that JDG destroyed. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But I do think Kanavi's in a better position. He's a better jungler, at least in this tournament so far. I love all the yes, like all these players are playing better, and here's why they're winning for this reason. I don't necessarily agree that 369 is better than Zeus. I'd say like Zeus does have a wider champ pool for sure, but 369 on that Aatrox looked unbelievable. I don't think Zeus can play at least Aatrox specifically as well as 369 can. He can counter into it, but I don't think he can play it as well. I also don't think if for whatever reason this turns into a top lane tank meta up there, Zeus is not as good on tanks as 369 will be at all. I don't think it'll happen, but if for some reason drafts pivot that direction, then JDG are going to be much better in top side.
I do agree
Can't
with you.
T1
Whichever
just
team puts their top laner on a tank will lose that game.
but can't T1 just ban Aatrox?
They
I think
can.
that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna get banned every
Aatrox is
game.
gonna be I think Aatrox is perma banned in this series coming up. But across the board, I think top is very heavily favored on whoever's jungler loves them more. So whoever has the jungle support will win the top side matchup. I think as you were saying, it's a very 50-50 matchup. I can see either of them just smashing. And it depends on the jungle priority and where they're looking to play. But yeah, from mid down to bot lane, I think T1 has the stronger laners in mid and bot. So I actually think it's going to be a top-sided meta where you're looking for more plays around the top to get your top ahead, because you know that T1's bot lane and mid lane are going to be going even or up in lane. And so I don't know if you have to worry too much about playing around your bot side if you're T1. So I think it's going to be a lot of top action, and we can see a lot of the 0-6 Jaces or the 6-0 Jaces, I think, this series. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it will be very volatile. I think just top lane itself will dictate a lot of the game. But as you were saying, Fenrir, whoever plays the tank first will be the one losing the series.
Yeah. It's worth noting that I believe that as far as jungle proximity goes, Kanavi gives a lot more to topside than Owner does. I think in groups of the 12 or groups and planes at that point of all the teams, Zeus had all the top stats with like KDA and gold per minute, damage per minute, CS, everything,
He was
CS
also
diff.
first in forward percentage.
Yeah, all that with 13th jungle presence. So there was at least one play-in team that put more time into top lane with their jungler than T1 did, or at least two, I guess. Then, so there's that, and I don't think that JDG was that far off. I feel like when I've watched the games, Kanavi's pretty spread out all across, or maybe he's even more top and mid centric than bot, which is the opposite of Owner for sure.
I
So.
also think too, with the certain play style, um, just in general, teams are banning Caitlyn. So you're kind of trading the power picks, right? So red side feels like it has to ban Aatrox, and blue side, if Aatrox is left open, they want to ban Caitlyn because they don't want to give over that Caitlyn. So I think T1 does have a good interest to Aatrox. They'll probably just let 369 play Aatrox, and I think the Yone Sejuani combo is really good into it. What T1 have been playing, so we'll have to see if they leave it open. I think it's a lot of. I can see either side actually winning just based on how draft works, but I think it's a lot of like mental games with draft where you can give up the Aatrox and you believe in your laner to play Aatrox and win that matchup, but I don't think I've seen any other team be able to counter the Aatrox besides T1 reliably. So we'll have to see how it pans out.
I'd say also that I think, yeah, like you're saying, the Sejuani Yones are great, and then they'll slam Silas or Akali mid, those three, and then with that, I think we'll see a Carrier Zillion game. Like he pulled out last Worlds. I think it was last Worlds. Yeah, it was. Like I could totally see that putting Zillion with those three and some other bot laner that makes sense. Maybe it's a Senna there. Maybe it's a uh, I don't know. Sivir would work well with with that meatball of a team. Um, Although I wouldn't want Guma there. Maybe it's Zaya. His Zaya's nasty. You could put a Felios there. Like that's nasty. But I feel if I'm gonna make one spicy pick like Fenrir did, that someone's gonna play something. Carrie is playing Zillion once this series, at least once.
I actually think I agree with that because I think last year they did play like a Zillion Jin comp. Remember that? The speed the Jin around against Damwon. I thought that was super strong. I don't really know if I have any spicy picks. I think in general, you kind of understand how T1 want to play. I think the spiciest pick we did see was the Ashheimer from T1, but I would like to see a little bit more of like just fighting in general. So I want to see a lot of like melee champions going at it. But I will say that I my spicy pick prediction will be a Yasuo bot lane from T1.
Ooh.
So that is where I'm
playing
leaning towards
Yasuo.
for a potential spicy.
Carrier?
Guma Yushi's playing Yasuo.
Oh, Garria
That's where
says
I'm
that he's the
going.
best ADC or the best Yasuo on the team.
Maybe I'd be down for Kyria Yasuo too, but yeah, anywhere in the bot lane I think would be pretty sick. I think
What about Carrier's Lee Sin? That was played in LCK both spring and
with the
summer, I think.
Yasuo.
No,
Yeah.
it was with Senna Lee Sin.
With the Senate, yeah.
Yeah, they play
I guess
that.
so. Yeah. I
Didn't
think
they
it
play Lee
depends
Sin
how much
Yasuo
they.
once?
They did play Lee Sin Yasuo, but
Okay.
I think I think you should full all in on the Sejuani comp and play a 5-5 melees and just ban out like Graves and different like spacer champions on the enemy team and just go all in and see what happens. But it'd be pretty cool seeing like a Yasuo bot lane again, because I think we haven't seen one in a while since like maybe last year, and I think he is still a very good champion to play in the game just with what he brings.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Maybe they play Malphite support or something like that. I know Carrier also loves to play in solo queue every once in a while. He plays Echo support. So that could totally work. And I've tried it before. It's fucking hard to play Echo support. I don't get it. As someone who plays off like weird supports, like I play AP Jarvan, I was playing Zoe earlier. I could see a Zoe support coming out from Carrier as well. But like Zoe MF would be nuts if they pulled that out. But like I don't know. Echo support feels so weird. It's so hard to play. I mean, that champ's hard to play in general, but to play him support is just like it's next level aggression.
And so another thing is I think T1 might have an answer to the Sivir Yumi that hasn't been played yet.
If
And it's
they
Zoe.
do, oh, okay,
Faker's Zoe.
sure. I mean, yeah, they could just totally go.
So
They could go a poke comp, like yeah.
yeah, so the reason why Sivir has been so good in the meta, right, is because everybody plays like these meatball comps where they just kind of want to run at you. And poke hasn't really been in the meta. So if they play like a Jace Zoe, which is extremely like super possible, right? Because Zeus is literally lightning, right? He wants to play Jace. Faker is probably one of the better Zoes in the world. They could finally answer the Yumi Sivir. And if you can answer Yumi Sivir, that gives you so much flexibility in the draft.
That could help with your Zillion prediction too, like a Jace Zoe with like a Jin Zillion type of comp where you just kind of out kite them and just poke them and root them like from long range. I feel it could be pretty spicy to see. But yeah,
What would you
they
jungle with
had an
that?
answer to.
I mean, if
Ooh,
you could throw a Sejuani on it. I
yeah.
mean,
You just use it as
if you really
Sejuani as an
wanted
ult
to,
bot, pretty much.
yeah, you just build full CDR Sejuani. You could also, if you really wanted to, you could play like Maokai jungle. You could use the ult just for zoning.
Yeah, Maokai could be good.
Maokai would be great.
And the ability to use the saplings for extra vision just so you can get more poke down, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can't wait. The drafts alone. I mean,
Yeah,
just
are gonna
watching
be
these two
spicy.
teams draft against each other, and we've been so focused, right? It's crazy that I mean, it's Zeus and 369 and Faker and Yagao and Kanabi owner, but look at the bot lanes, man. I mean, Hope and Missing have turned it on this tournament,
They've been
and
good, yeah.
Gumi Ushikaria have decided to show that they're the best bot lane in the world again. You know,
Yeah.
it's sad that another year goes by where quarterfinals or semifinals, sorry, are basically what finals should be. You know,
Yeah, because last year it was what? It was T1 Damwon was the semifinal that should have been
yeah,
final. Although the finals were pretty good last year between
yeah, they
EDG
were,
and
yeah.
Damwon. Yeah.
But I mean, it's giving me T1 Rocks feelings all over again. You know, we're back in NA.
Yep.
We're and last time Faker was here, he won it. So it's all lining up.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I will be so Boma will be in attendance, but I'll be watching these live and just hanging out in the T-Force Discord watching them. So, Fenrir, if you're there, please join me. That'd be
Yep, I'll be there.
okay.
Don't worry,
Sweet.
I ain't missing this.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, we'll.
There ain't no VODs around here, buddy.
No, I'm gonna be watching them live. Yeah. Yep. And then, and for the first one, I'm gonna be drinking watching it too, just because, like, oof, I gotta do that. Sunday, I'm not going to, because I'm gonna play a bunch of solo queue with my brother afterwards, or maybe some flex or something. Got to be in a sober mindset for the last like 3 weeks or so of league, trying to get into diamond. But, yeah, for
Yeah.
the Saturday game, Saturday series, I'm gonna be drinking, so that'll be fun. But yeah, and anyone who wants to, please come join. I'll pop an announcement a little bit ahead of time as well, just to let people know to come join us and watch. But yeah,
I'll
cool.
send some pictures from the live game too, so I'll keep posting the Discord as well, and I will also be drinking at the venue. So
I didn't know
we
they
can all
served
be drunk
alcohol there.
together.
Nice.
Oh, I'd be very sad if they don't. I'm just expecting because it's a basketball arena, so I assume they should serve alcohol. But if not, then I will be drinking beforehand and being barely conscious of what's happening, but I will be enjoying myself.
Nice. So, all right.
I'll
Well,
tell you about one more little like
oh
pet
yeah, go
peeve
ahead.
thing.
Go ahead.
So I understand that Worlds is NA and it's probably hard to get like um other regions casters and desk people like to
Oh,
stay. It probably costs a lot more money, but I think it's complete bullshit for one that Atlas is not going to be casting these games, or at least even just on the analyst desk, because it's his region, right? Like, it just frustrates me so much that we're not going to get the insight of these guys that literally talk about these teams on almost
For the
a
whole
daily
year,
basis.
right? Yeah, that's
Yeah, you know, it's and don't get me wrong, Kobe, Freak, Azale, Captain Flowers, Cadril, like they're all great. Like
Mhm.
Cadril's probably all in all the
Oh.
best caster out of all of
I
them.
would say Cadrill's like up next after the LCK casters because he does watch a lot
Yeah.
of LPL and LCK games, but like not as you were saying, not having those specific region casters is kind of rough because they've casted every single game in
Yep.
person and they've watched like these teams develop and understand how these teams play. Where you can watch VODs, but you're not gonna watch a whole scene of VODs from like an NA caster's perspective just to cast the
Mhm.
series. So I think I kind of agree with you where I understand the budgetary concerns, but at the same point, you can try to keep at least one LCK caster
You
that you
know,
could
there's
try
going
to
to be one
cast. Yeah.
there's going to be one LCK team. There's going to be one LPL team.
hmm
There needs to be just regional, like what's the
representation.
word? Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, for it just bothered me when I seen that Atlas wasn't going to be there.
Well, yeah, but they're sending Chronicler home as well. They're also sending Dagda home, so there's
They're sending all of them home.
There's
right?
no
Yeah.
right. There's no LPL or LCK. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That is utter bullshit as well. When I saw that, I was like, what the fuck? And like, I could understand if they're saying, some of like we're getting to the last the last four teams in the last 2-3 series. We want to make sure that we have the most qualified and professional people. If I understand then like Chronicler hasn't been on for LCK all that much. He joined this season, so I could understand then in that argument if you want to send him home. Um, Atlas is a play-by-play, but he's also been watching, and he actually has play-by-played or casted the most games of any professional league caster. Like he passed someone this summer or so. So he's got the most games ever of anyone that's done it in the professional LoL scene. So you can't even give me the argument there. So I don't know. It's bad. It's bad. Like I'm really sad that that's gonna happen. I understand also budgetary concerns, like one of you guys said, but at the same time, they could just offer them conditional contracts and say, hey, if there's representation, we will keep some or all of you on, but depending on what regions get through, you may or may not be cut short earlier or be kept around till later. Like I get that, and especially they're keeping a lot of the NA people and the EU people around, but almost all of them are contractors. They're not actually official Riot employees.
Yeah.
I think the only NA one is Freak, and EU it's
I think Azael still works for Riot as well.
he's on his Twitter it says that he's freelance. He's freelance, yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I knew Captain Flowers was because he did that last year, but I wasn't quite sure who else went through it.
Yeah, Zale did. None of the LCK people are. They're all Riot Korea employees. I don't know about the LPL people, but I think they're also Riot LPL or Riot China employees directly. So they don't have to pay them anymore. It's just you have to pay for hotel stays and flights and stuff like that, whatever. But even if, okay, let's say they had to pay them a little bit more, the amount of money that this game generates, they can afford to pay a few, like, let's say it's $10,000 more. Okay, that's worth it for what you're going to be getting out of this event. Riot it claimed, their company, like I don't want to say motto, but like the ethos that they try to live by is a game by gamers for gamers. That's what they try and do, and they try to do everything they can for the player base while also making sure that it makes business sense. So unless there's something that none of us are aware of behind the scene, and I'm not just talking about us three, we're looking at everything in social media, we're talking all of what the casters themselves have been saying, like they're leaving, former casters, people in the scene, influencers. If unless there's something that all of us are in the dark about, it just doesn't make sense. So, yeah. No, again, though, not like Fenrir said, not to take anything away from the people they're keeping on for it. They're all great. I'm sure they're going to make it a very exciting series. We're just going to miss some of those storylines of, the longevity storylines or personal anecdotes that these people are just not going to have. So, yeah. But, yeah, so please join us in the Discord for Saturday and Sunday. I'll be watching both of them, or Fenrir and I will be in there live. Boma will be sending pictures. I'm sure we'll have more people in there. It'll be a grand old watch party. It'll be sweet. Yeah, I will make another announcement about Bomo's team thing, or the Victorious League next Wednesday. I'll drop an announcement about that, so be sure to join us for that if you're available and want to.
November 2nd, make sure you...
Is that November 2nd?
Next Wednesday just say November 2nd, because next Wednesday and a podcast doesn't really get
very
on the date.
Very fair. Yes. So yeah, November 2nd in the evening. It will be posted in announcements later on tonight on the 27th. So I'll let people know like a week ahead of time. And then the matches are on the 29th and the 30th, starting at 5 Eastern. That's when everything starts. 4 Central is when I'll be getting on, but I guess that's the same time, so I'll be getting on around then or a little bit ahead of time. But yep. Other than that, please send us feedback at the feedback thread in our Discord, or reach out to us at questions@trinityforcepodcast.com at our website there. You can find a whole lot of other information and cool stuff on our website. We have community game nights on Tuesdays at 7:15. And please check out our Patreon if you want any of those sweet benefits. You'll what's notable there is some coaching stuff, but then also you'll get an early access to tournaments that happen. Hint, hint. Hint, hint. But other than that, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will
Got
see
your
you.
piece of paper.
Yep, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peace.